Hello, this is video 4, and I call this miscellaneous incidences. 75 to 80,000 incidences a year. You do get a lot of them. Well, this is a machete. We responded to an apparent fire condition on the second floor of a two-family house. The ladder was put up. A firefighter looked into the window and he saw there was about 200 lit candles in a room. So we rang the doorbell and the man came out onto the porch and said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, you're going to have to extinguish those candles. This is a very congested area." He said, I'm not going to put them out. This is one of my religious ceremonies for myself." I said, "Well, we're going to have to come in there and extinguish them." He said, "You're not coming in here. I got a machete. You come in here." I said, "Well, we can also come in through your front door." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "Oh, yes, yes, we can." He said, "I'll just take a saw and cut your door out." Anyway, I said, "Well, I'm going to call the police. They'll be down here. You'll speak to them." The police come in, and then he was put into cuffs and taken out, and we were able to extinguish the candles. This next one is it's an acetylene tank incident. This acetylene tank was half empty. Well, it was found under a huge pile of clothing in a nursing home. It was in the cellar of the nursing home. Residents who had died over the years, they had simply taken discarded clothing and put it onto the onto the grill that was underneath the pile of clothing, and it came to be about 6 feet high. They exchanged hands, the nursing home. Of course, they didn't know what was underneath it. They had probably had it about 3 months. So I spoke to the supervisor. I said, "Hey, you've got to get rid of all of these clothing because I can smell dust in them. There's a possibility there might be a fire." And I said, "This is unhealthy. I want you to get rid of it." He said, "Okay, we'll get rid of it next week." I said, No, I'm going to get rid of it today. Open up the door and throw it into a dumpster." So anyway, that's what he did, and he was quite surprised when he saw the propane tank, which was half empty, and the acetylene tank. You never know. This one is it's a flatbed truck. A man was driving behind this flatbed truck. The truck stopped suddenly at a light. The driver of a car behind him was unable to stop. He slid right underneath that. He was decapitated. His head was launched right out the window, went right down the street. It took about 35 to 45 minutes to find his head, if you can believe that. Now, there was a woman in the car beside him, a young lady. Some firefighter grabbed her, hugged her, and just held her so that when the EMS come along, I don't know what they did, but they did try to calm her down. I don't know if they gave her any injection or what. Now, there were people who looked at that. There were standbys and looked at that. They saw that terrible situation. The firefighters saw that. And that's something that you'll never, ever forget. I didn't see it because I came in that night. They discussed it with me. I had a situation with a flatbed like this. I was called to a medical. This is about 8 o'clock in the morning. It was cold and it was freezing, probably January or February. And I went up to the second floor. It was a congested area. I walked up to the top of the stairs. A woman met me. She was about 50 years old. And she says, "Can you help me?" I said, "Oh, sure." I said, "What's the matter?" She says, "My son has stomach pains." I said, "Oh, where is he?" So he's in the living room. I walked into the living room and I said, "Hi, what's your name?" You say, "John." He says, "Yeah." I says, "Oh, I don't feel good. I have pains." I said, "Okay, well, we're going to get you out of here, John, pretty quickly." So I walked into his mother and I said, "Can you tell me how much does he weigh?" She said, "He weighs 740 pounds. I said, "Okay, don't worry, we're going to get him out and we're going to get him to the hospital." I went downstairs and looked around, and they were doing some construction nearby. So I simply commandeered a forklift truck. They had some plywood, 1.5-inch plywood, and we had the extensions on the forklift truck. And we were very fortunate. Two of the firefighters happened to be carpenters. Well, there were 2 windows that they pulled out. It was perfect. They opened it up, and with straps and everything, and put the plywood on top of the forklift, and we put it inside the window, and we pulled John on his bed and everything right onto the plywood. Pulled him right onto that, strapped him down, and then, lowered him down and strapped him down, and then I said to his mother, can we put something over his face so he won't get so frightened? Because it's going to be cold out there when he's going to be driving along the truck. She says, oh, yes, yes. And I said, I'll make sure that you will go along with him, and we'll make sure the house is okay when you leave. And, oh, thank you so much. So then we called ahead to the hospital, and they notified that he was coming in. And they probably took him to the dock area. And I guess they took care of him, and I hope that they could take care of him. And after that, nobody wants to be different in this world. And that man certainly felt different. And I got ticked off, and a couple of guys started to laugh. And I really let them have it, both barrels. Nothing funny about that. No one wants to be different. I don't care what color you look like, or how you are, or if you have a bad burn, like we've seen people with burns, which I'll tell you about. And they're going to have these for years. So this is another one. I don't know if you can see that. Well, we responded to a fire in a dormitory room. It was in between semesters. Well, there was heavy smoke coming from one of the rooms. It was up on the 18th floor. Now, 2 of us got the door open, and we crawled on the floor, and there were heavy smoke conditions in the room. There's an awful lot of paper we were pushing around. We couldn't see. We had our tanks on. Well, we knew where the bed was. Well, we crawled up into the bed, and we yanked this person, whatever it is, off the bed. And the man's bedding and clothing, he was on fire. Suddenly we heard something go zing, zing, zing. We didn't know what it was. We got to the door, we dragged him out, and later we discovered that the man had a couple of loaded guns, and there were bullets on the bed. It appeared he was a drug dealer, and he was going to call him, but I guess he stayed there for the weekend. So anyway, that was an interesting story. I want to show you this. This is about a fire we had. And what I want you to do? You see the helmet over there and the coat? I want you to put it on. Now here's a fire. Let me get this higher so you can see this. And you can see that. We had a fire. I had this fire, I don't know, it was January or February, in the morning. It was 1:30 in the morning. This fire was at the rear of the building. There was an open door in the rear of the building. Smoke was coming out, and scattered all around in the back were ladies' shoes. Obviously, the smoke was coming out, so, it was an arson deal. So we brought a couple of lines of hose, and they had to bring them in. Now, if you look about this, you might be able to see there were higher buildings out there. So I had to run way around outside these buildings to get in front of the building here and to see what we had there. To see what the conditions were. Well, this place was called secondhand furniture and clothing that they sold. It was called Hadassah. They had nice clothing in there. And there was a good lot of smoke pouring out underneath the doors. And there was, inside, of course, you got shoes and coats and pants and jerseys And you know, all of this is flammable. Once you get a good fire going in there, you can see the smoke pouring out of there. Now, the ladder was placed to the roof. Now, there was 2 feet of heavy snow on that roof. It was a flat roof. The smoke is heavy. Now, that parapet from the roof, from up there above is 5 feet. So the firefighters had to drop 3 feet into the snow. Well, that roof, we needed a 4x4 hole cut. Now, that's a flat roof. It had to be ventilated, get the smoke, heat, and gases out of the building. Now you take this roof. It's probably what, 125 to 150 years old. It's an old building. And also on top of that flat roof now, it's you've got heavy air conditioning, because on each side, we discovered you had a furniture repair place, and over here you had a hardware store. Those air conditioners could have dropped right through the roof onto firefighters and killed them, which they have been killed, and I'll describe that condition later. Well, so we had to bring, now we got to bring lines into these buildings, into this particular building. Now the furniture store to the left had all kinds of explosive chemicals, and I'm assuming that he stored all of that equipment that he has in the cellar. Same way with the hardware store. They've got all kinds of chemicals and everything down there, a combination of these cellars. We can give you an idea of what they have in these beside us there. Muriatic acid, they got hydrochloric acid there, ammonia, calcium chloride. You can buy these things at the hardware store, you know. And you got strippers for the paint, the refinishes, they're flammable. You got methylene chloride. A lot of people have died from this. You have solvents. You have glue for carpets, you know, buckets of it. You have toxic vapors. You have flammable strippers. This is only a few of the things that you would have encountered if you're standing there. So, well, you got those problems there. Now, what we had to do now, if you think about this, if you look closely there, you can see this is a plate glass. All this plate glass had to be broken. You can look like a carriage. Looks like a carriage there, you know, for the store there. Now, in order to break a plate glass window, you have to hit it in the middle. That's the weakest part. But you've got to be sure that when you hit that, you've got to hit that and bring it right down fast. What they call, it's called a rake. There's metal on it, and you got a pole on it, and they have to come right down fast. Otherwise, that glass would come right down right down and cut your shoulder or cut your arm very badly. While we're inside the building now, there was a lot of snow, a lot of smoke in there. We had lines of hose brought in to make sure that the fire didn't get in to the hardware store. Or the other were 2 lines, just covering them just in case. And there was, so I'm walking around, looking around, and I saw a pair of stairs. Well, I had my mask and everything, and I crawled up the top of the stairs, and there was a room up there. I looked at it, and what did I find up there? There was about 100 furs laid flat on the ground, on the floor there. Now, we were taught that burning furs give off cyanide gas. Well, it called out, so temporarily every additional help, we probably had about 100 firefighters come up to that. And they waited temporarily until we made sure